Good morning. Good morning, members. Morning in the chamber and good morning online. Welcome to members to this meeting of Social Work and Social Care Board, which has been conducted from the chambers and remotely through Microsoft Teams. The meeting is being recorded and will be available on the COAL's website following today's meeting. I am ruling items 1, 3 and 4 as urgent to allow the matters to be considered prior to the next meeting of the committee. So is everyone able to hear me online? Someone give an indication?
Yeah,
yes,
loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine. Thank you. So if we move on to item number 1, that's the minutes of the meeting of the 21st December 2022. Is that a true reflection of the minutes? And if we do propose another seconder, we don't need that, just agreement. That's fine. Declaration of interest. You're invited to declare an interest in any agenda item at this point. If you become aware of an interest during the meeting, then I would ask you to declare it at that time. When declaring an interest, it would be helpful if members could indicate briefly the nature of that interest. This helps to make our decision making more open and transparent for the public. So is there any declaration of interest? Yeah, Tam?
Hi, thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. My wife receives care services from home care. So.
Okay, thanks, Ian Archie. Is there anyone else? Yeah, and I'll have to declare an interest myself as my wife is a carer, but I don't think I'll be leaving the meeting. Okay. Okay, can we on now to item number 3, home care. This is a report, recruitment and retention review, care at home update. And this is a report by Head of Partnership Services and Community Care. And Emma McSween is going to speak on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The report gives you an overview of where we are with the various actions that we've discussed at previous meetings in terms of the terms and conditions for care at home service. But if you can draw your attention to paragraph 2.3, in addition to the discussions we had previously, this is a key development in terms of supporting the service. The START service, as the report states, is closely linked to the care at home service. And if I can describe it in simplest terms, accessing the START service ahead of becoming a core service user for care at home allows individuals and the families to maximise the independence of the service users, so that when a care at home service is requested, it's for more a permanent and ongoing basis. So we're delighted with that investment of near £500,000 in a service so closely linked to care at home, and given our unmet need in terms of the service and the waiting list we have, this will help filter through and enable people to be enabled as much as they can before the requests for the care at home service are made. So I think that's a good news story for the local authority services in the IJB. You'll see as well that other action that we have pending, there's 2, we're awaiting the outcome in terms of the job evaluation exercise, but also in the new year we'll be reinvigorating the scoping exercise relating to unsociable hours, etc. That's described in paragraph 2.5 of the report. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. Is there anyone with questions? I've got a couple, but I'll wait for everyone else to. Councillor McLean.
Vice Chair, yeah, there is a number of questions I would have as well within this paper. As you probably know, we've been talking about social care within the council for the best part of, since you and I have, well, you were in before me, Chair, for the last part of 5 years, and it's to improve the service. And talking to those who use the service, both carers and cared for, I'm afraid to say that that hasn't happened. And therefore, what I'm asking today is this paper. And I can only say that I've read through it. I've read through it 2 or 3 times. And really, if there's anything in it, it's to do with care at home, re-ablement start. Does it do anything? If I am a carer, working as a carer for this authority, has this paper done anything for me to see that my conditions are being improved? I would ask that question first.
Chair, if I can answer the first part of your question. We had a recent survey undertaken of all the users of the service, and they were asked for the responses in a number of regards to do with how they felt the service was that they were receiving. It produced really positive results about the service from the service users we're actually serving. One area that we want to look at, there was 85% compared to the other responses being in the 90% felt that the consistency of care they were receiving. It was only 85% return that they felt that that was good. So we've responded with a follow-up letter to all these people explaining, to all the service users explaining, we appreciate that's not as high as we would like it to be, but given our recruitment and retention issues, there are likely to be some disruptions to service, but that's not what we wish to deliver, but we're working as hard as we can to resolve that. In terms of your second part to your question, I think the report does detail some benefits to our workforce in terms of actions we've taken. I think they're listed there in the report, so I'm unclear what else Councillor McLean would like to discuss on that.
Yeah, could you clarify then? Tell me, could you clarify for me to know what you see in this report as positive elements for carers? Because I'm talking about carers. I'm not talking about the re-ablement. I'm not talking about the care at home. I'm talking about carers, the day-to-day carers who go out onto our homes every day of life.
Well,
I'm just saying that you're going to talk about the possibility of putting reports about transport money for transport for coming from their own home rather than starting at the home that they're caring for. You say that you will put up a report next year for it. I'm sorry, Emma, but that's too. These reports should have happened before.
Chair, as we previously explained, the actions taken in 2.2 on the back of the staff survey, and with the exception of the work that I admit we've still to do in 2.5, we have progressed the key areas that were raised by this workforce itself in terms of improvements they were seeking, with the top one being the overall remuneration for the post, and that's pending evaluation. So to answer your questions, Councillor McLean, we've addressed the areas that the workforce have raised with us. If there's information that members are aware of that staff are raising with them yourselves that weren't listed in the staff survey that you'll have seen, I'm happy to discuss these offline and see if we can factor them in. But yes, section 2.5 does require more work, but it's not just for the care at home service, it's the broader terms and conditions for these matters across the Corla workforce. So it's not an exercise that care at home can lead on as a service in its own. Chair, I have to reiterate to members the actions we've taken were on the back of the staff survey, and we've demonstrated we've addressed the issues raised.
So sorry, I don't want to take it up. I'll let somebody else speak.
Yeah.
I want to come back to a number of issues, but we've spoken at this one-to-one before about this, Emma, and it's not been addressed here.
Malcolm, can you put your light off? Yeah, carry on, Emma. Someone else?
That's it, thank you. We have one-on-one discussions with members, and I welcome that offline. And there's information that may be shared that's not subject to public reporting for obvious reasons. But what you'll see in the actions that we've taken, there's the obvious ones, but we're also looking at how we're supporting the capacity of line managers to support the frontline service. We're looking at various training options for our middle management within the service. So they're positive actions I feel that we're taking across the workforce, and investing in the staff that are supporting the front line. What we have happened due to the recruitment and retention issues is care and support supervisors have spent a lot of time out delivering care. And that has distorted the balance in which they can support the whole workforce, because but the good thing is they're seeing what's happening in terms of the frontline service. They're engaging in that. So as much as that's been distorted recently in terms of their time balance that associated with their post, it's brought them much closer to the day-to-day activity that carers are facing. So and you can see that we've asked for a increased care and support supervisor capacity. What I can't do is take informal discussions I have one-to-one with members and inflate them into recommendations and committee reports without having the detail to pursue anything that's raised with me through formal processes.
Oh, sorry. Right, Colin.
The system needs a reorganisation, a root and branch core reorganisation. I don't see it in here. I see management, increased management, but nothing for the carers. That's what I have at the moment. I'll go on later on to mention about those people who are receiving care and the families. They've got problems.
Thank you, Colin. Malcolm, if you want to come in now.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Just to reiterate what Mrs. McSween has said here, I mean, this whole issue follows a pattern. Members raised issues about terms and conditions for carers. The Corlett agreed with that position, and officers set out a manner of dealing with it, which was largely through the employee survey. That was brought back to the committee. That was then taken forward as proposals. What is listed at 2.2 are not small items in the world of employment. A one-off retention payment. I don't think any other group in the Corley has received that payment. Additional shifts worked, which, I mean, who wouldn't agree with that, but will be paid in full regardless of the schedule. Mileage we have addressed, an issue that particularly affects carers, and the other points have been picked up. There is more work in the pipeline, as is set out at 2.5, but that has to proceed in a way that is structured, in a way that takes account of other groups, and in a way, of course, that takes account of costs. So there is a process here, and that process has been set by this chamber and has been followed by the officers. And if you agree, these recommendations, 2.5, will come back to you and Policy and Resources Committee probably in due course. So there is a process here which has gathered evidence through the survey as well as members' own inputs, and that's now what we're implementing. So just to advise members, this follows an agreed process in full, and that takes account of members' comments at all stages, including today.
Yes, thank you, Chief Executive. George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not a member of this committee, really, and I don't want to. Basically, what I'm asking is, what hourly rate are carers paid just now, and what hourly rate are carers taken in from? The word escapes me just now, but agency carers. What is the difference in hourly payments for such carers? And is there any way we could reduce agency care payments and enhance the payment for ordinary carer. Don't know if that's appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Emma?
Thank you. I'll get the figures. I don't have them to hand, but there is obviously a difference, and that's why agency is far more expensive. We only move to agency when we've exhausted offering additional hours or recruitment within our own workforce. So they're plugging a gap. They're not a permanent part of our investment, but like many other authorities, when there's no other options available, you move to agency. But we restrict that as much as possible. We want to invest and increase the hours of anyone in the workforce who wants them. And I have had a couple of queries about that from elected members, and the reassurance is if somebody wants additional hours when the care is required to be delivered at that time, they will be offered them as the first step.
Thank you, Emma. Are you saying that basically then that their own workforce have priority in the hours? Oh, sorry.
Absolutely, but the increase in hours has to be when the care is delivered. That's the challenge we have, is managing the rotation of staff with when the care is required to be delivered.
Okay. I heard different, but I'll speak to you afterwards about it.
Certainly, and they're the examples that, you know, you will hear different bits of information, but what I would ask you is when you come to me, if you're sharing information, I would, as part of that, you also need to see whoever's saying it to you, that there's the process to raise these is through the line management structure. And if they do not wish to raise that with their immediate line manager, the next line manager, or I am more than happy to speak to staff direct myself. I've made that open to any elected member who's come to me, because the process is not via an elected member to me to then start an investigation. It's through line management, as the Chief Executive has alluded to in this response.
Hi, George, just a quick answer. Yeah, you know, the cost, I remember it came up at council before in previous meetings. I think it's around £40 an hour that we pay for an agent. See, you know, we don't, the agent, sorry, the agency worker doesn't get £40. I think it's around 22 or something, but that's come up before at previous meetings. So there's quite a lot. So you want to come in again, George?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, Emma, and I do believe that as a last resort, have to go to agencies. But surely if the job was made more attractive, there would not be the people leaving it. If the job was made more attractive, we might not have to resort to agencies. And, you know, just we seem to be hemorrhaging carers. What I'm hearing is there's no carers out there, there's no carers out there. I think there are, but they don't want to be working for below minimum wage.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. What do you say?
It's just to say that, yes, we only use agency as last resort, and what we have been doing is working on the terms and conditions to make it attractive. But I think the Chamber needs to be under no illusions about the scale of the challenge across Scotland and further afield in terms of social care. A recent report by the Care Inspectorate, 55% of regulated services are reporting recruitment difficulties. That's an increase of, I think, from memory, around 10% on previous years. So it's not a situation that is just Western Isles, you know, a problem. It's broader. But the thing that I would like to get the message in the Chamber is we invest in our workforce. We're very proud of our care at home workforce. The feedback we're getting from service users is very good. And I'll share that summary with you because there seems to be misinformation in terms of the quality of the service we're delivering. Because that information is good. You should be proud of the service we're delivering. What we want to do is enhance it and, yes, make the terms and conditions as attractive and as competitive as possible. And what I'm evidencing to you is the efforts we're going to do that. It's not just within our gift to raise an hourly rate. There's a process of job evaluation because there's the whole job evaluation scheme for the local authority posts. We've triggered that and we're awaiting the outcome on it.
Thank you, Emma. To be honest, the care at home service, yes, we all agree that we're doing a good job out there in the community. There's no one that doesn't disagree. There's no one that disagrees with that. That's not, I don't think that's what the council members were getting at. Could bring in Ian MacLeod.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Emma, for the report. Just looking at your positive actions at 2.2, that's excellent to see that we are moving forward with these. But I still kind of worry about the turnover in staff. I believe down this end in Uist, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've lost 2, if not 3 carers as well. What else do we need to do? I do appreciate that training for management and support staff in there will help, but is there anything else we need to do? And also for the record, the view is that carers do an excellent job. It's not an easy task, and they do their best, which is good.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. I'm aware of the situation in Uist, but without breaking confidences, people, when they depart our service, can do it for a number of reasons, and it's not always to do with the post that they were employed to do. But for your assurance, we examine the exit interviews that employees are offered to do when they leave any service, whether that's retirement, whether it's moving to another department, whether it's moving to another job, or for whatever reason. We seek their views in terms of the post that they were doing and their reasons for leaving. So I'll be having personal oversight of that. And if there's any themes that are coming through, please be reassured that we'll factor them into the support we're offering for the workforce.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks.
Councillor McNeill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. I actually welcome the report, and it is a good report. It's addressing a lot of difficult issues that should have been addressed before now. If memory serves me right, a lot of these issues were raised at the previous committee when Councillor Kenny John MacLeod was chair, and we had a following seminar, and it was in the time of Paul Dundas, if you remember correctly. I see carers every day of the week, 365 days a year, and I have for the last 17 or 18 or 19 years. It's not so much the pay. Yes, they welcome a pay rise, and they look for more money like everybody else in this day and age. But carers don't feel valued. They feel as they don't, they're not given the respect and the position that they should, and this is coming from higher up. There's a few things I would like to discuss, but I'll have to do that personally with you, Emma. But I was looking through some of the things there. Now the retention payment is what was that a retention payment or a loyalty payment? If I remember correctly, when that was mooted at first, it was more for loyalty. The mileage has always been a contentious issue, especially for the first visit and the last that they don't get paid for, and especially if they've got a long haul to their first and last visits. Training needs to be improved, you know, especially where there's more specialist needs and stuff. I've had carers been sitting there. This hasn't happened once or whatever. They've come in here on their own without an induction. Now it's difficult for these carers coming in when they don't even know where to get a cup, to make a cup of tea or something. I could carry on through it. There was a contentious issue that more or less got rubbished as regards the Christmas and New Year arrangements, because it's not a Western Isles issue. I thought we were looking at more localised solutions and working around it. But when you're distance managed, as is what's happening with home care and used at the moment, it doesn't seem to be working. Now, I'm going to stop there. Like I say, I welcome the report, and I think it's a brave thing that we're doing, looking at it, and I hope that we go through it properly and we sort this out once and for all for the benefit of the carers and the service users. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jan McNeill. Duncan?
Yeah, certainly I welcome the report, and in particular 2.2 of the report, it highlights, that action has been taken to address the issues that were raised, and having a look at the way things have been discussed to date, it seems to be that there seems to be a breakdown in communication on that. Carers seem to be coming to members with concerns rather than going to line management. So there is a system in place that needs to be understood by carers. I would say that probably the biggest problem that seems to be there is if a carer's on, say, £10.50, certainly no one's working below the living wage in the care sector, and the misinformation seems to be over the difference that they seem to be getting to what agency staff. I would say that there is no doubt whatsoever that that's causing a lot of friction within the workforce, because as you said yourself, Chair, if you're talking about £22 being paid to someone else and you're on half that, hourly rate, it's bound to create friction within any organisation or within any workforce. So I think that carers should be aware that if they have any concerns, that they go through their own line management system, and there is a system in place within the Corla on line management. That's the way that any concerns that are raised within the workforce on their terms of work, and then if that doesn't happen, it will come addressed to full council through the normal channels. That's my own observation on it, but certainly I would say that 2.2, a lot of those actions have been approved at Human Resources, where we have considered, those and taken forward the actions that were required. And I think, that the Corps have accepted and actioned what was fed back to them from the survey that was done.
Thank you, Duncan. Just to answer you there, yes, you're correct in saying that carers should go to their line managers. That's very, very true. But the worry is, why are they going to the members and not the line managers? That is a worry. I've had 2 incidents myself where I was approached, which I shouldn't really be. We shouldn't be, but we are, because they were not getting the support they should have had from their line managers. And I'm afraid the state we are at just now, there's no union representation up on the island. You have to go away as far as Inverness to get union representation. You see, thank you. Yeah. Emma? Right.
Thank you. I think we have to be very careful. There are options to staff if they feel that they can't approach their immediate line manager. But what I am not getting from members is a scale of risk here that requires me to do anything further than reiterate to staff, as the Vice Convener leader said, in terms that there is structure and there is process. And I would appreciate your support, as I know I have, in terms of reassuring staff that that exists. And again, reiterate that I am available for staff to speak to if that's what they're more comfortable with. But what we have to be clear is when people raise issues, they need to be investigated and addressed. Now that's done in a positive, supportive way. I appreciate your comments about trade unions, but we also have supports within the service for any staff members who's raising issues so that they can be investigated and supported throughout that process. So it's more a message of reassurance for me as the head of service that exists. So I don't want the message to be there that there's any blockages in the system that would allow them to be able to speak freely with their line manager or myself, whatever is appropriate.
Okay. Nick?
Just have muted myself. I'm just going to speak.
No, there you
than,
go.
than playing with technology.
You're okay,
Hopefully the folk online can hear me. So just to endorse what Emma's kind of saying, so I'm hearing here kind of positively in the conversation that if kind of colleagues are feeling that either they're kind of struggling to be heard or maybe not necessarily kind of comfortable with a direct approach to their line manager, then Emma's available. And I guess beyond that, then there's myself as well. So that's a route, and I would encourage people to, I think probably in the first instance, have that conversation with kind of Emma.
Okay.
So I'll I think endorse, support what Emma's saying in that regard. And beyond that, I think some kind of colleagues in the conversation will be aware of the position across the Western Isles. So if you think about from a population perspective, particularly working age population, it's contracting quite significantly, and the opportunities in terms of employment, it's very much, I suppose, an employees kind of marketplace. And so when we're talking about kind of rates of pay here, we need to kind of think about that across the totality of the economy, and that's something that I think is possibly not a conversation for any here kind of right now, but we need to have a real kind of consciousness of around, I suppose, those market forces and how it's impacting us in our ability to recruit individuals. So thanks, I'll shush now.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Chair, and it's good to see the Chief Officer of the ITB, Mr. Fairson, and her presence in the chamber again. I haven't spoken for quite a while. So. No, I mean, just coming back to 2.2, I think we need to take cognizance of the work that's going on within the department to get to where we are in this report, because there's good stuff in this report, a lot of work in the background here. And having been both a member of the ITB and a member in the council here for a number of years now, I am conscious of what has brought this report to where it is today. There were a lot of issues coming before us at that time. There are still issues before us, but the progress I think that has been done should be commended to the chamber and everyone across the piece. Caring is a valued role in our community, like we all know. It's not an easy task to do. A lot of carers are travelling long distances to get from A to B. And that's really what I would like to touch on, really, is on the mileage allowance on 2.5, where I know it's been looked at the moment of paying mileage from home. Now, we've paid an enhancement payment to carers, but I am also aware of HMRC implications. So we start paying additional increases in mileage payments. Would they be penalised further if that was the case? You know, is there a way that we could do something for them rather than put the mileage from home? Because the more mileage increase you have, the more tax implications it could have. Going back to I've got a question probably for Mr. Fair here as well from the health side of things. The pressure seems to be on the care, on the council's care side here, care at home. We all know that it's not good to be in hospital for any longer, and we have to be, and the health board are always keen to put people back into the community as quickly as possible, which puts more pressure on the council's care side. I know we spoke when I was in my term in the ITB, Mr. Fair, of health coming in with caring roles in the community. They were going to be at an increased grade to the council carers. I'm just wondering, has that progressed any? I know I haven't been on the ITB since its inception just now. I had a concern at that model at the time that if we were going to do something like this, that it was going to be a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation where the health would pull the council's carers away from the roles they were in, and we would be in a worse situation than we are in at the moment.
it is a catch-22 situation, but I would like to see the risk register attached to where we're going moving forward, because the more pressures we're putting on from the health side to put people into our community, the more risk that we're going to face as a Cornwall. So I know on previous IJB audits we did have risk registers coming forward, but I'm not sure we're still doing risk registers at the IJB to show this. So it would be good to see where the risk lies. It's good to see the bed blockage at the hospital side, at the health side coming down, but that's only pushing the risk further into the community and into our side of it. You mentioned earlier on that it was good to have Mrs. McSween present to go and see them. I know myself personally that in a previous term, two carers came to me specifically with questions. Dr. Curry was here then. He was based in the very freely based for members to come and open door here within the council. I came in with these carers to the specific issues that they had, and we managed to resolve them fairly quickly before it went too far. My fear is that at the moment is that certain members that have concerns, they would ideally like to have that open door policy with possibly yourself. And I'm not sure, if that's as freely available as it should be at the moment. I know we've got Mrs. McSween, but she's got her own responsibilities and duties as well. But I think it would be good if you would allude yourself to being more available to council members with their queries when they would come with things, because I think things could be resolved fairly quickly and amicably before it would come to this situation. So a few questions in there. And my final point was on a staffing level. Do we have an area in the island that is a concern at the moment through staffing, or have we generally got a lack of staff across the whole of the Western Isles in the care package? I am conscious of one carer, and I'm going back to the travel at the moment, who is travelling from Scalpay to a client in Renegadale, and without going into the client and confidentiality of the thing, the travel time that person is taking for 15 minutes care, she's taking probably 45 minutes on the road. So, if we're not paying these carers for mileage, back to my first point, from home, and that's a specific instance. I know not all carers are travelling that length of mileage, but a few questions in there in the mix to throw in.
Emma?
Just
Hold
on the mileage issue, we are looking into it. At the moment, staff don't get paid for the first 15 miles, but they get paid anything out after that. So it's the 15-mile issue that we're looking at, and that was set previously in a previous term, and we're taking HMRC advice on it. If staff are asked to work out with their area, they'll be paid mileage from home. So just so we're clear on that, and if any member of staff's come to you with advice to the contrary, can you please alert them to the terms and conditions? And I can deal with any anomalies that you maybe be hearing about with that regard. What I'm going to do is issue an extract for members through the Chief Exec's bulletin, just so you can get a link to all the terms and conditions that are in place for avoidance of doubt, so that you have the best information should someone query you direct, which inevitably will happen.
Thank you, Emma. Hold on before I think Nick wants to speak to you first. All right, okay.
Yeah, just thanks for that clarification, Ms. McSween. When you're saying out with the area, is that a ward area, or is that, I'm conscious if I take my own ward of Lochs, for instance, if I have a carer in Crosspost who might have to go to Oronsey or Lemroy, there's a lot of mileage incurred there as well. So
if it's within the locality they're employed, the 15 miles, nobody will be asked to fund out of their own pocket more than 15 miles if their first client's further away. The 15 miles is the most that somebody will have to pay without being able to claim mileage.
Thank you. It might be better just to let them pay mileage from wherever as soon as they leave the house. Anyway, Nick.
So come back to me at the end if this doesn't answer the questions, and we can have either a further conversation here, or we can kind of catch up beyond here. So the robbing Peter to pay Paul, if I'm hearing you kind of correctly. So in the paper that kind of Emma's presented, the additional kind of capacity in not not simply kind of the care at home service, but supporting kind of care at home. So the start reablement that Emma referenced, that kind of recruitment is under kind of caller terms and conditions. So we're seeking to add to that kind of workforce directly through kind of caller terms and conditions, so that we don't get into that kind of position, if you like, of robbing Peter to pay Paul, for the reason that I think probably everybody in the conversation today will be aware of. There's quite significant differences nationally between terms and conditions that are offered under Agenda for Change and those, if my language is kind of correct, around kind of single status. So that's a national, I guess, tension. And I've got a real kind of consciousness around it. So the work that kind of Emma's taken forward in developing that proposal, and very much around resilience into the service, seeks directly to invest in caller services for that reason. So we don't start, if you like, to rob one to pay the other, if you will, in terms of the workforce kind of moving between. Your point about kind of being available, probably the best way to kind of get to me is through Katrina McKenzie. Either you can ping me an email kind of direct. My inbox, probably like most people's, is hideous most of the time. So if you want a direct kind of conversation with me, go via kind of Katrina. You can always kind of contact me directly. Always, there's a phone call is always kind of welcomed. But Katrina will give you a sense of when I've got time to kind of talk to you. That's why I'm kind of encouraging kind of Katrina to help in that space. And your kind of final question, is there anywhere across the islands that concerns me kind of greater than the other in terms of workforce and vacancy? And that the simple answer is no. It's a significant challenge across our island kind of group. There are certain, if I think about the wider services, the IJB, if you like, kind of commissions, there are particular areas of kind of pressure within subspecialties, if you will. But overall, in terms of kind of workforce, the challenges across all of the islands. We're not in that kind of position of thinking we've got a high level of kind of confidence and security in one particular bit of the geography. There's a risk across. And in terms of the risk register, and I'll shush on this last one. So at the next kind of full board meeting, which is on the 8th of December, so as I said, this month we're into December kind of now, you'll see a revised strategic risk register being kind of presented, and that'll be publicly available. So hopefully that helps. Thanks.
Angus.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Fairs, for that. It would be good maybe if that risk register would come to this, we could see it on the agenda here as well, when it will be available. I know it's publicly available, but part of the, just an update if we could on where is health with their proposal at the moment to have these carers coming into, has that developed or has that moved on? Are we going to see people hitting the ground running soon, or are they already in place? Because I'm conscious too that obviously, when we come into budget settings and within the corner here, where we find that, our revenues are being depleted by year on year from Scottish Government, and yet health is always getting, top slice of the money coming home. That doesn't help the situation either when we're trying to recruit within our own service, and salary grades could be greater. And that is my concern, that you would, going back to the phrase robbing Peter to pay Paul, where we would lose good people. So it's how we really progressed on the health side on that.
So the new kind of money, so they're described as winter pressures monies. That's the description from kind of SG. So there's in excess of 70% of that kind of spend that we received, or the income that we've received around that, from a partnership perspective, is being directly invested in the caller, as opposed to the NHS. There's a limited amount of investment in the NHS in areas like hospital at home, palliative kind of care is another kind of area. So given, if you like, the kind of the challenges that sit around kind of recruitment and those points of kind of difference in the work that Emma's going to be taking forward and that we've been working on together, we've chosen specifically to invest in the caller as the lead employer for that additional kind of capacity across the health and social care partnership. Otherwise, we'll run the risk, if we turn it on its head and do it the other way around, of essentially kind of drawing kind of colleagues potentially from the caller into the NHS, and all you do then is you deplete your overall workforce. So we've been quite purposeful in the way we've set out to do it. And the governance arrangements that sit around kind of start and reablement and the strength of that service, we're seeking to build on that. So we've been really quite purposeful. and that kind of consciousness of risk around individuals kind of choosing which employer they might wish to kind of work with. Hopefully that's helpful. If not, we can have a better conversation on a one-to-one basis if you like. Thanks.
Thank you, Angus. Thank you, Nick. Paul, you've been waiting a while down there in Eust.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got a few extra questions, I think, following that. No, I don't. My comment is going to be just to really welcome the report. I think it's good to see at 2.2 the list of things that we've done. I suppose the fact that we're still discussing this at 10:46, you know, we've given this quite a good hearing, and it just shows that how important it is to members and to our communities. So it's good to see there's some progress being made. You know, Councillor McNeill mentioned we've been raising them for a while, so it's good to see these things happening. My question was really about the retention and recruitment side of things in other local authorities. I'm just wondering, Emma mentioned that it was a nationwide issue, and I know that it is. It's not an easy thing to cover, but I just wondered with the other island authorities, are they seeing similar trends? And if not, if they're slightly better, are there things that they're doing that we could be doing as well? Thank you.
Emma?
Thank you. To the next meeting, I hope to be able to give you an update on the national picture and how we engage with it, but worth remembering that other authorities are probably beginning to struggle because of the way they used to commission the service in terms of outsourcing the majority of their care services, and now they're having to take it in-house. So that's new to them. But Delina Smith and Chief Execs is our national link in terms of the workforce planning across health and social care, and she's got some new information she's sharing with the department at the moment. So I'll summarise that and give you a feedback leader on where we are and where we think we can learn from or share learning with other authorities. But it's a pretty consistent picture across the country in terms of challenges for social care and wider services.
Thanks for that, Emma.
Okay, I think we'll have one, maybe two more questions. And Jan Yarchi, is that a legacy hand, or are you wanting to come back in?
Thank you, Chair. No, I would like to come back in. I've just got a wee regards the mileage. Our carers work a rota system of 4 days on, 4 days off. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Emma. So is 15 miles in the morning shift and 15 miles in the evening is the maximum that they would lose out. So that's up to 30 miles a day.
Yes, from my reading of the policy in front of me, it applies to the start and to the end of the day. Yeah. So for a rota of 4 days, that's 120 miles. Carers have to subsidise themselves to go to work, and you know, in a place they've got no say in where they on where they go. So it isn't like they've got an option to work from home or anything. So I think I think in fairness, considering that agency workers get paid all their mileage, that we should be looking at sorting this one out. I think it would go a long way to solving a lot of gripes. Thank you. Yes, and we are looking at it, that, as Councillor Morrison alluded to, there's other factors like HMRC, and we're unpicking their views on this before we make any recommendations, as opposed to changing the status quo.
Can you explain to me why agency carers get all their get all mileage, you know, when their own staff don't, you know, for our first and last visits, you know, we have to be fair to our own, I think. So thank you anyway. That's just my last observance. So
the agency is the employer, and they set the terms and conditions for the agency workers, and we have to contract on that basis.
Well, we're the employer as well, and we set the terms and conditions for our workers. So
Yeah, thank you, Tam. Hopefully that is going to be the case going forward. Thank you. One more question. Councillor MacLean.
Thanks, Chair. I'm only allowed one more, but I seem to be the only skeptic in the room, but I'm not, it's not deliberate skepticism at all. Emma, first of all, I'm going to say to you that you have a difficult task to do. It's not the easiest task you do, and because this has been going on for 5 years and you're trying your best, I know that, but don't take my skepticism and my criticism as being personal. I don't want it to be personal. It'd be wrong of you actually to put a report to us without challenging it. And I think if we're challenging it, and that's what I intend doing. But first of all, let me first of all say, I've said it on numerous occasions that although I challenge this, I challenge some things in the report, and it's good to see the report in here, the carers that we have going round our homes are second to none. They are carrying out an excellent job. And every home I go to that have carers, they're always complimentary about the work and the force that you've got there. I would say that it is the bureaucracy that comes in. Families of cared for, as I see it, feel very vulnerable. They feel often that they have failed. In other words, what they failed to do is, I was in a home there just recently. Maybe I mentioned it to you, Emma, and actually the wife was actually speaking to one of your, how can I put it, intermediate managers. And she was she was crying, telling me about the process that she had to go through. She was almost saying that she almost had to be begging, and she was being accused of not being able to care. And that is what I'm finding in many of the homes, is that they're feeling that they have to fill in such a burdensome tasks in bureaucracy, and they feel as well that they have failed. And I feel maybe there's something in there. That's why I'm saying there's something missing in the report in that, Emma, to realise that the families were cared for, their vulnerability, and the fact that there's such this sort of filling in of forms or whatever. As I said before, and Jan Archie has mentioned it already, and a few people have here, all of this has happened. We've tried to change the procedures of carers, and yet they feel themselves that they are not valued. But yet they feel valued in the home. But where is the fact that they're not felt valued? That is the question that we have to address. Once they feel valued, they can talk about you talk about retention. The reason that people we're not retaining our staff is that they're not feel valued. And they have they say, this is a great job. And people, I've got the support, not only from the home, but I've got support from the establishment that I work for. And I think that's what we've got to work on, to be quite honest with you. And that's what I feel that maybe that's missing in the report. And the last one is, I'm trying to get this into a one, is this 500,000 for the START program, short-term assessment and reablement team. Question I have there is, that seems to me to be a specific task. And it does not seem to be 500,000 for carers. It's for an assessment. Am I getting it right? It's for an assessment. I've got it wrong. So can you please enlighten me on that one?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And just as Councillor MacLean welcomes, I welcome him challenging me, I'll challenge him back. You've got that wrong. So the short-term assessment and reablement service is a fantastic service that you'll know some of the staff that the reablement workers are. But you may assume they're care at home workers. So it's so aligned to our care at home service. They provide support for people and families in their home to learn to do for themselves after illness, due to frailty, so people are as independent as possible. But they work in the same ethos as care at home, valuing the family, valuing the individual, and supporting them to regain their independence. So for me, that's an investment in a service that will hopefully reduce the demand of the care at home service. That's what it's deployed to do. so that the care at home service is more for the consistent long-term packages that you're aware of. I think, Chair, I need to reiterate a concern. This discussion about our staff not feeling valued isn't coming through from the surveys of staff or our engagement with staff. So as much as I appreciate there's anecdotal evidence that you wish to raise, conflating that with overarching assumptions about the service is very dangerous in the chamber. So I think we need to focus on happy to listen to individual circumstances. I'm aware of some. There's more information available to discuss in certain scenarios. And if I thought there was action to be taken on individual concerns that have been expressed to me, I will do that. So that's for your reassurance. But again, the surveys we've got from the workforce, we're engaging with. And if there's more information the workforce wishes to share with us, happy to hear it and happy to act on it. The service users we're providing care to, we've surveyed them. I've said the area that's flagged is 85%, so it's not as if it's very low. It's just not as high as we would like it to be in terms of consistency of care. But as the Chamber will appreciate, that isn't a surprise given the challenges we've got. And that's a bit like the Councillor McNeill and you used to saying, staff not being so familiar with the service user and the home as we would like them to be. That we need to work on that, and we know that, and we will be, and that's with the care and support supervisors. I think as members, you're very much in contact with the frontline service. You would feel as equally proud and appreciate the challenges facing their line managers and their line managers if you spent time with them day in, day out. Genuinely saying that. It's a very challenging post some of them have, and I appreciate you hear stories from the front line, but there are also challenges and services and individuals within the system at other areas. So it's a plea to not conflate anecdotal evidence that your testimony that you're hearing with assumptions about the broader service. And I look forward to being challenged in future meetings in terms of what we're doing, and more than happy, as I've said again, to meet with you individually or as in a group context to discuss themes that you feel are emerging from the information you're being privy to.
Thank you, Emma. You.
Which I'm still a wee bit, a carer going into a home has to do a fair bit of work, like washing on a client and such like, but a start person doesn't. They do. So they do, they carry out exactly the same as a carer. That's new to me.
Aye. Thanks.
For that. I think I know you're wanting to move on, Chair. I can come and explain the start service to you. It's regulated by the Care Inspectorate. It's rated as very good. And this is the step change Councillor Morrison was asking about. Previous plans for the winter pressures money did include NHS only terms and conditions. Thinking on that has changed, and that's the investment in START. That's a blend of your enablement workers, which are council workforce, with the support of OTs and physios, and care and support supervisors manage that service as well.
Thank you, Emma. Now, I'm conscious that Mr. Libby has to go away, so one more question. Is that okay? Quick question, Angus?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's just something that came to my mind just now. Having gone through 3 hours of safeguarding training for vulnerable people last night in another organisation, and having done it through the council ourselves, just to make sure that as councillors and you know, as all carer, that we are up to date with working with, because we're going into homes as well where people are vulnerable, and that we're fully aware of what we have to do. It's a minefield when you go through it. So I'm just making awareness that we are all up to date with safeguard training, and that all our carers, Emma, are up to date as well with the safeguarding policy regarding working with vulnerable people.
That's included in mandatory training for staff.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. I don't think we'll take any more questions as Mr. Libby is in a bit of a rush to get away. So thanks very much for everyone who contributed to the questions. Thanks, Emma, for your report on that. Thank you all. Thank you. If we're quite happy to agree the recommendations. Everyone? Okay, thank you. And we move now on to number 4. Item number 4. And this is Jack. Jack Libby's going to give us a quick, I know you're pressed for time, Jack. I'll try not to hold you up as long as we did Emma, right, thank you. It's just, the interest of the board, it's in relation to adult services, adult social services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good morning, Board. Whilst the 2021 report had a particular focus and emphasis on how social work and social care maintain service delivery throughout the pandemic, the report for 21-22 very much focused on how services are transitioning services out of the pandemic. Evidently, the issues found in workforce, as in recruitment and retention, are as much an issue now as they were then, indeed before then. We do have what I say is in terms, I want to focus on the care at home staff. Well, I'll focus actually on all the staff across social work and social care. They do a remarkable job. And in terms of the care at home staff, I feel assured by the quality of work that has been undertaken by the service. And as Chief Social Work Officer, my assurance is important in terms of the quality of service. And safeguarding was mentioned, and it's equally important that we have confidence that our service users are safeguarded. I want to speak briefly about my own, I suppose, my own direct experiences and exposure to adult services. I always found the service, indeed the organisation, as a listening service, listening to both service users and staff alike. And I think there's been 2 consecutive surveys of service users that have had high and very high satisfaction rates. And I think the staff need to be commended on that and for it. And members have done today, and that has been very pleasing because it's both a difficult but rewarding job. And whilst the financial rewards are important clearly to them as they are to us and practically everybody else in the community, there are other factors to the job that, yes, we need to take cognizance of. So listening is important. Listening is also relatively doable. The challenge can come thereafter, actually. So some of the feedback that we receive results in actions that we can do pretty quickly, pretty straightforwardly, and without much cost potentially. There's feedback also that is less straightforward. Nevertheless, does require action, but these actions can take, significant strategical change, significant financial resource and recourse. So I think I'm not going to use the word patient because I know the conversations that have been had today have been had over many years actually. But through my National Chief Social Work Officer network, the conversations that are taking place in this chamber today are taking place across Scotland. Our challenges are their challenges. And I would say each local authority and each board are wrestling with similar challenges. Maybe our demographics may make it that bit more challenging, admittedly, but there are similar challenges nevertheless. I just want to end in terms of, we spoke, I think, Chair, yourself actually, we mentioned priorities in terms of local workforce versus agency staff. And I think the priority needs to be seen in these terms, actually, that the priority needs to be the service that's provided. I think that's more important. Who provides the service is very important, but the actual delivery of service is more important. Yes, as an organisation, at times we have to depend on agency staff, like every other organisation across Scotland. And I feel reassured by the service that we only get to that point where every other local option has been explored, because we know service users ask for continuity. continuity of who comes into the home. It's what we'd want for ourselves. It's what we want for our service users. And it's not through any lack of effort by the service if we do get to a point where we're having to get the agency staff. And they are expensive, twice as expensive. And yes, that's probably not the best use of public funds, but when it's a difference between a service going into a home or not, I think it's an essential service. And I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Libby, for your report. Has anyone got any questions for Jack? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'm sorry for having to speak, but it was one of the reasons that I'd asked for some of this report to be brought to this board here, Jack. It was to do with some of the underspends, in particularly at 4.1 onwards. And one of the reasons I asked that, because I feel that when we have underspends or overspends, it should come to this board here, and because of how we spend the underspends. If you'd like to call, and the reason I'm going to just take you to, for instance, 4.6 adult care support. It's got an underspend by underspend of 43, is it? 40, yeah, adult care support underspent by 43k. Now, I think I mentioned a case of, no, this may not apply to you, Jack, but I brought it up at education, and I've been said that it's.
I'm good to declare that this tonight was fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Is that this individual has got a son, an adult son, who's needy, who's got needs, and in order for him to get to the castle, he can get public transport into the town, but he can't get up to the castle. So he has to take this boy every day and I think he goes 3 days a week, and he gets no financial assistance. Am I coming to the right man to Jack Libby today to sort this problem out?
So, thank you, Cam. But probably less about the right man or the right person. And it's probably a conversation that would best take place out with the chamber, in all honesty.
That's fine.
Going back to my earlier point, it's a listening service, and I know Mr. Sweeney and the team would very happily discuss that particular point with you, but I certainly wouldn't want to go into any more of the details about that particular situation within the chamber, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's what I'm saying is that when we have this underspend and we have this need and it's not being met, what I'm saying is that's why I brought it up here. That's a reason for it.
So I suppose my own final remark before I dash off would be, I think the service works, and we need to work very creatively with the money we have.
Yeah.
And one of the frustrations at times is when there are parameters around, but like some of the funding we get from central government, for example, can be ring-fenced or short-term, and that can often create real challenges for the service who do want to be creative with the resources they have at their disposal. And I think that's the kind of conversations I know Ms. McSween would happily have with yourself and others. And on that note, I really must dash. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Libby. Thank you, Jack. Thanks. Can we approve the recommendations for item just for the board's interest? Can we approve the recommendations? Agreed. We've approved the recommendations, Sweeney. You're okay. Just about. Yeah, right. Thank you very much all for attending, and there was some air in there and a lot of questions and difficult questions for Emma, and that's fair enough, but very good. It's very good. It was a good session, I would say. Yeah, thank you, and probably won't see you till next year, so I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah, even though I'll see some of you next week. Right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.